In the Circuit Court for Dixon County, Tennessee at Charlotte, September term, Grand Jury 2020. The grand jurors of Dixon County, Tennessee, duly impaneled, sworn upon their oaths, do present that between May the 1st, 2014 and May the 30th, 2015, in Dixon County, Tennessee, and prior to the finding of this presentment, Rocky R. Lee Cathy then and there did unlawfully and knowingly sexually penetrate A.H., a person less than 13 years of age, in violation of Tennessee Code Annotated 39-13-522, against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Count 2. And the grand jurors aforesaid, upon their oaths aforesaid, do further present and say that between May the 1st, 2014 and May the 30th, 2015, and prior to the finding of this presentment, in the county and state aforesaid, Rocky R. Lee Cathy then and there did unlawfully and knowingly sexually penetrate A.H., a person less than 13 years of age, in violation of Tennessee Code Annotated 39-13-522, all of which is against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Count 3. And the grand jurors aforesaid, upon their oaths aforesaid, do further present and say that between May the 7th, 2016 and May the 30th, 2018, and prior to the finding of this presentment, in the county and state aforesaid, Rocky R. Lee Cathy then and there did unlawfully sexually penetrate A.H., and Rocky R. Lee Cathy knew or had reason to know at the time of the penetration that A.H. did not consent to the sexual penetration, in violation of Tennessee Code Annotated 39-13-503, all of which is against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Signed, W. Ray Crouch, Jr., District Attorney General.
To that indictment, how does the defendant plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Plead not guilty is entered. Next stage will be the opening statements of the lawyers. State will go first.
The role of a stepfather is to step in and stand in the shoes of the father when he cannot or will not. He's supposed to take her to father-daughter dances, hold her hands on walks, teach her to find and use her voice. Instead, the defendant took his 11-year-old stepdaughter to his bedroom. Instead of holding her hands, he held her arms. Instead of giving her a voice, he held his hand over her mouth to silence her. And there he raped her. He did this repeatedly until he and her mother separated when she was 15. Her name is Alexis. She's now an adult. It's been almost 3 years since she told her therapist what the defendant did to her. She was 17 at that point. A referral was made and Detective Katrina Pulley came to talk to her. At first, she would not disclose what happened, but she ultimately told Detective Pulley and agreed to a forensic interview with the Child Advocacy Center here in Charlotte. And during that interview, she revealed more of the events that you will hear about today. Detective Brent Johnson spoke to the defendant, and you will get to hear that interview. The defendant denies that he raped his stepdaughter. He was married to her mother, Misty, for more than 10 years. But during those 10 years, he says he was hardly ever alone with the victim. He says that she did tell her mother that something happened, but he says she was lying. At the time of that interview, shortly after Alexis's disclosure, the defendant had been coming back around the house, back around Alexis. Because of the passage of time at the point that this was reported to law enforcement, there was no physical evidence of the sexual acts to collect. Alexis will tell you that she told many people what was happening, but no one got her help. The defendant is charged with 2 counts of rape of a child for sexual penetration before the victim reached the age of 13, and 1 count of rape for acts after she turned 13. At the end of this trial, after you've heard all of the proof, the court will instruct you on the law. And at that point, with the evidence and the law, you will have the tools that you need to deliver a just verdict.
Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Sensen.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. Afternoon, I suppose, at this point, right? So ultimately, your job in this case will be to try and make sense of a story that you were not there to see, based upon the testimony, the words of witnesses from that witness stand. Words can be powerful, right? They can end relationships. They can start wars. They can ruin lives. In the state's case in this matter rests almost entirely upon the words of Alexis Harrison. There will be no DNA. There will be no confession. There will be no smoking gun in this case. And to be sure, Alexis Harrison's story is powerful. Her words are the kinds of words that move you in the deepest parts of your heart. But the problem with words is that they can be powerful. They can be moving, even when they're not true. And as you consider in your mind the truth of Alexis Harrison's words throughout the course of this trial, it will become increasingly clear that her story just doesn't make sense. Because Alexis Harrison's story is that her stepfather forcibly raped her, violently, repeatedly, for years, and yet no one noticed. Not even her own mother, who lived with her every day, the entire time. Alexis Harrison, she'll tell you that she tried to tell everyone, including her own mother. And nobody did anything. Nobody believed her enough to pick up that phone and call the police. Why? You see, the state had better have a very good answer to that question. Because the obvious answer, the answer that common sense just screams at you, the answer that the evidence you will hear throughout the course of this trial will make it more and more reasonable to doubt the story of Alexis Harrison, is that it's because he didn't do it.
They may call your first witness.
State calls Detective Katrina Pulley.
Nice if we had casters on that. Roll it around and someone should suggest that.
I do.
Are you Detective Katrina Pulley?
I am.
And so we are recording because we don't have a court reporter here. So you got to make sure, I know you're loud.
I am. That's
But-
why I kind of pushed it back. a
Yeah,
little.
but you got to make sure you're speaking right into it so that we're producing a recording for the appellate record. Detective, could you spell your first name and your last name for our court reporter when she does transcribe this?
Yes, Katrina is Katrena, Pulley, Pulley.
And Detective Pulley, where do you work?
Dixon Police Department.
And as a detective, is part of your responsibilities investigating child sex abuse crimes?
It is.
Now, in this case, you got involved because of a referral. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that's something that you get from DCS that sends you out to find out what really happened.
Correct.
When you got that referral, what did you do?
Myself and DCS investigator Misty Elliott went to try and find the victim so we could talk to her.
Now, in a case like this, do you work with DCS usually?
I do.
And so she was with you at all times that you were involved in this case?
Correct.
And who did you end up going to talk to?
We ended up finding Alexis Harrison at her, I believe it's either her cousin, maybe her cousin's house, off of CCC Road, I think maybe Manly Loop possibly. And we made contact, which she is the victim.
Did she know you were coming?
No.
Did she appear to be surprised in any way?
Yeah, I guess.
Did she initially make a disclosure to you of any abuse?
No.
Explain your process sitting down to talk to her.
Okay. So when I arrived on scene, Alexis was inside of the residence. I asked her to come outside to talk to me. We actually sat on the front porch of the residence, and I asked her, I told her that we were here because I'd received a DCS referral in reference to sex abuse, and she would be the victim. She first said no, and I said, well, in the referral, it states that you have told somebody that your stepdad had sexually abused you. She started crying, and then she admitted that that was true. At that point, I asked her if she knew her private parts, where her private parts were located on her body. She did. And I asked if her stepdad had touched her private part, and she stated yes.
Hearsay.
Judge, it's for the effect on the listener. At this point, she's going to be setting up the next step because of those disclosures.
All right, I'm going to allow this to be introduced over the objection solely for the purpose of showing not for the truth of the statement contained, but rather for the state to be able, through this witness, to show what the next step was. It's for that limited purpose.
What did you do because of her disclosure?
Because of her disclosure, I stopped talking to her and advised her that I would get in contact with her mother, and we would set up a forensic interview at the CAC, at the Child Advocacy Center.
Now, you're a detective. You interview people all the time. Is that right?
Yes.
Why would you set up a forensic interview instead of interviewing her yourself?
Well, I always use the CAC, the Child Advocacy Center, mainly because it's recorded, not only audio, but video. And it's one-on-one, and that way the recording is something that I can have, or whoever is investigating can have. And we don't have to go back and keep talking to the victim over and over again. And also sometimes it's admissible in court.
And did you go and observe her forensic interview?
I did. Maybe
And-
not all of it, but some of it, yes.
And without going into other parts, there's one part that we do have to talk about. Did you learn whether or not the abuse happened in the county or in the city?
I learned that the abuse actually took place in the county.
And why does that matter to you as a city police officer?
It would be out of my jurisdiction to investigate that crime. And at that point in time, I notified a detective in the county to come up to the CAC.
One moment. Judge, I have nothing further at this time.
Cross-examination?
One moment, if we could hear. No questions.
Thank you.
Thank
Detective,
you.
can step down and you can remain or you may leave.
Thank you, sir.
Or your next witness.
Judge, the next witness will be the victim.
Let me stop the video. Okay.
Guess I should have fit, the state's next witness would be Alexis Harrison. All right. Alexis, one of the things with a trial is that we are having to make a record, which means that I may have to, and it sounds like you're doing pretty good, but you got to make sure you're always talking into the microphone so that everything's recorded, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you Alexis Harrison?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you spell your first name and your last name, please?
ALEXISHARRISON.
Alexis, how old are you?
I am 19.
Who is your mom?
Misty Kathy.
Was your biological dad part of your life growing up?
No.
Was there a point in your life where you got a dad or a stepdad?
Yes.
Who was that?
Rocky Kathy.
When did he come into your life?
About whenever I was 5 or 6 years old.
And when he came into your life, did you end up living together?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain where you ended up living together?
First, we ended up living together at my Nana's house, Terry Howard. And then we moved into his apartment.
Who is Nana?
Nana is my grandmother, Terry Howard.
Is it your mother's mother?
Yes, ma'am.
So you and your mother and Rocky moved in with Nana.
Yes.
Did anyone else live with you guys while you were with Nana?
Danny and Coda, they would come over sometimes over there on the weekends.
So Danny is Danielle Kathy.
Yes, and Coda is Dakota Kathy, Rocky Kathy's daughter and son.
So they were his children.
Yes.
How old are they compared to you?
Coda is 1 year older than me, and Danny's a couple years younger than me.
About how old were you when you lived with Nana?
I lived with her since I was born, and then at age about 8 or 9, we moved into his apartment
Okay,
and then into 557 Rocky Drive.
let's go ahead and talk about that for a second. So
Okay.
his apartment, do you remember where that was?
I don't.
Was it here in Dixon?
I think so, yes.
And Rocky Drive, was that here in Dixon County?
Yes.
It was in Tennessee City?
Yes, ma'am.
So the progression is he and your mom start dating and he moves in with you guys at Nana's house.
Yes.
Then you move to his apartment and then to a house on Rocky Drive.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna go step by step because we're telling the jury this story. It's the first time they've heard it.
Yes, ma'am.
So how long did you, and some of this may be repetitive, you met him when you were 5 or 6.
Yes.
When did you move from Nana's house to the apartment? Roughly.
Roughly
And it can be a grade or an age or a year.
about 7, 8, I think.
Okay.
I'm not too sure.
And when, and it may be easier as we go through, so let me back up and try a different angle, okay?
Okay.
What, what was Rocky like as a dad?
At first, he was pretty good because he made my mom happy. And, well, I mean, she wasn't happy, most of the time because she was alone. But whenever she first met him, she was happy. So I was happy for her. And I was happy to get a dad.
Tell me a little bit about your mom's mental health before Rocky.
She was sad most of the time. She drank, but she was mostly just sad, not really there. She worked a lot.
Where did she work?
NHC
What kind of shifts would she work?
all day. So she'd probably be there at 7 o'clock in the morning till probably about 4.
When you were in school, how did you get to school?
Bus.
Would she leave before or after you got on the bus?
She would leave after.
When, at any point in your life, have you talked to a therapist?
Yes.
How old were you?
I was about 17, I think I was.
Did you tell that therapist anything about what Rocky had done to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Approach.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if there's an objection, we don't have a court reporter, so it needs to be on the record. I'll need to ask the jurors to step out. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll step across the way, please. All right, Mr. Mitchell, what's your objection?
I guess I'm going to be the one arguing. So basically, it's a twofold objection, Your Honor. First is that it's hearsay, but also the second part of the objection would
Let
be,
me make sure I'm understanding. Are you objecting to her statements to the therapist? Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay.
But we're also objecting to relevance. Specifically, I think that the purpose for introducing this testimony is to create an implication that the therapist is the one who reported it to DCS. And pursuant to TCA 371409, the identity of a child abuse reporter to DCS is confidential. And so the relevance of her telling her therapist to create that implication, our argument would be that that's improper. Especially since they, to my knowledge, don't have the therapist here to testify that she's the one to have made that referral. And I believe in reading TCA 371409 that she would be able to do that, but it would be inappropriate to have another witness testify that either the therapist is the one who made the referral or that there's some implication that that's who made the referral.
Any response?
Yes, Judge. So my question, if I can go back to that, was did you tell the therapist what happened, that any abuse for mocking? I may have not gotten the exact wording of the end of that, but it was, did you tell? Question does not call for hearsay. Second, the remainder of that statute about the identity of DCS identity remaining, or the referent being confidential. If you continue to read on, it basically says unless the criminal justice process says otherwise. The court can order it be revealed. It's always available to the state in criminal prosecutions. There's no problem with the conflict of that statute. And Judge, I'm absolutely 100% arguing for the inference that the therapist made that referral. Therapist is not here to testify. Now, am I going to have a witness that gets up and says the therapist made the referral? No. Can I ask this witness, is it appropriate to ask this witness, did you tell a therapist that this abuse happened? And was that a few weeks before, or a few weeks or days before Detective Pulley came to talk to you? Those are appropriate questions. They don't get into hearsay. They don't come crossways with the confidentiality statute, and there's no improper inference. It's a totally proper inference.
Judge, if I may briefly respond.
First of all, let me ask this question. When you ask her if she told the therapist, are you going to get into specifics about what she told the therapist?
Just that there was a sexual abuse allegation that she told the therapist. And then the next question is, was that in the same time frame that Detective Pulley came to talk to you? And was it before or after, to clarify that time frame?
Mr. Stinson?
Judge, in reading the statute, the court looks, the only court that's permitted to release the identity of the child abuse reporter is the juvenile court. And while it's certainly true that the nature
What
of
is the statute again, please?
TCA 371409.
371409.
Yes, Judge. Now, but that's my objection, and I think we might later ask for a jury instruction, but that's my objection for right now.
Last section, which is subsection F of that statute states, except as specifically provided in this chapter, nothing in this chapter shall prevent the department from sharing information with the district attorney general and law enforcement personnel for the purpose of cooperating with the law enforcement investigation. Information from department records that is shared with the district attorney general or law enforcement by the department shall remain confidential to the same extent that information are not shared with the district attorney general and law enforcement is confidential, unless otherwise ordered by a court, or to the extent that such information is used for criminal prosecution, or to the extent required under the Tennessee Rules of Criminal Procedure after criminal charges have been filed. Any portion of shared information that does not become part of the court record shall remain confidential to the same extent as information not shared. Based upon my reading of the statute, it clearly allows that the information can be shared, but nonetheless, in this question and answer that's being solicited, is not asking to reveal the name or identity of the person that's reporting it or the records itself. It's more asking this witness if she saw a therapist, if she told the therapist what had happened, which she's testifying and therefore subject to cross-examination. And for that reason, I believe that the questions are appropriate and will allow the questions to proceed and overrule the objection.
Judge, if I could, and I don't think that this will change the court's ruling at all. I just want to put on the record for the purposes of potential appeal is that part of the hearsay, part of that objection was that essentially introducing information about the report, if the state decides to do that, would also violate Mr. Cathy's right to confront the witnesses against him because the report itself is inherently testimonial.
I don't find that to be a violation of your client's right of confrontation under the Sixth Amendment, and therefore I do not find that it is a basis to exclude the information, but we'll note your objection for the record.
Thank you.
All right, we're ready for the jury.
And Judge, so that the witness understands, I'll start with a new question when the jury gets in, okay?
Okay.
Gentlemen, you may proceed.
Alexis, did you tell your therapist when you were 17 that Rocky had done something to you?
Yes.
Did you tell her it was something sexual in nature?
Yes.
Was that around the same time that Detective Katrina Pulley came to talk to you?
She came probably about a couple days later.
Detective Pulley, when she first asked if something had happened to you, what was your reaction? Did you tell her?
I didn't want to at first
Why?
because I didn't want my mother to hate me or find out.
Let's talk about that for a second. You're going to talk about several different things that happened several times. Who did you tell about what happened?
I told, excuse me, I told my cousin, and then she told my mother, aunt, and uncle, and Rocky Caddy.
Objection. I don't think that she can hearsay, essentially.
Saying you can talk about who you told, but then you can't repeat what you think someone else said, okay?
Okay.
Sustain the objection.
You told your cousin.
Yes.
Who else did you tell?
I told my aunt and uncle,
What's your aunt's name?
Helen Potter.
When you told your cousin and you told your aunt, did your mom get involved?
She did.
Did you tell her what happened?
They told her, and I told her yes.
Okay. It's okay if there are other conversations, but as part of what happened, when you told your aunt, did you end up talking to your mom?
Yes.
And what did she do?
She sat me down and asked me if I was lying, and I said no. And then they told me that I was lying, that I was making it up.
Why didn't you tell anyone outside your family?
Was scared they wouldn't believe me because they didn't.
So let's go back to your conversation with Detective Pulley.
Yes, ma'am.
You initially told her no.
Yes.
Did she stop talking to you?
No. She kept on.
And did you ultimately tell her that something had happened with the defendant?
Yes.
And we're not going to go into what you said then, but you gave her some details.
Yes, ma'am.
And did she talk to you about doing another interview with somebody else?
Yes, ma'am.
Now we're going to start and try to go through sort of how the progression of what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
When was the first time that something sexual happened with the defendant?
I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Where were you living at that time?
My grandmother's house.
What was the first sexual thing that happened with the defendant?
We were watching a movie. We were in the bed and he started touching me.
So let me back up. So you were in a bedroom. Whose bedroom were you in?
My mom's.
And she and Rocky shared that bedroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you remember, was it daytime or nighttime?
It was daytime.
Do you remember what movie you were watching?
I do not.
Tell me about how the room is set up.
The bed is against the left wall. When you walk into the room, the bed is right here, and the TV and the dresser is set up right here.
So you're gesturing as if they're across the room from each
Yes.
other. So there's a bed, a dresser with a TV on it. Is there any other furniture in the room?
There's clothes on the floor. I remember that. That's about it.
What size bed was it?
It's probably a queen size.
Okay. Who all was in the room when you were watching the movie?
Danny, Coda, my mom, and the defendant.
Is everyone in the bed or somewhere else?
Everyone's in the bed.
That's a lot of people in a queen size bed. Can you explain that a little bit more?
So we were quite little, so I was on the edge of the bed. Then there was the defendant, and then Danny and Coda were moving around the bed, and then my mom.
Were you under the covers or on top of the covers?
Under.
Tell me about what you mean when you say he touched you while you were watching a movie. What did he do?
He put his fingers inside of my vagina.
Did he say anything?
He just told me to be quiet.
Did you have any idea what was going on?
No.
How long do you think that lasted?
A couple minutes.
Did he do anything with his fingers inside your vagina?
No.
Did you and he talk about that after it happened?
No.
Why didn't you tell anyone at that point?
Because he would tell me that it was okay. And that he was just teaching me.
What did he say he was teaching you?
He said that he was teaching me for my future husband so that I would learn.
Is that something you just heard the first time that he touched you?
No, it happened every time.
How did incidents like that, where he touched you inside your vagina, happen? How many times do you think that happened?
Over 20 times.
Is that the only sexual thing that he did to you?
No.
What else did he do?
Sorry, just give me a second.
You're fine. Take the time that you need. There are some Kleenexes up there.
He would put his penis inside my vagina.
Did that start happening when you were 5 or 6 or later on?
Later on.
How old do you think you were the first time he put his penis inside your vagina?
About 8 or 9.
Where were you living the first time it happened?
The trailer.
So at that point, you had left Nana's house and you were living in the trailer, but you had not yet moved to Rocky Drive.
Yes, ma'am.
And you
Your Honor,
think,
I'm sorry, but we're gonna ask for another jury out. Objection.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're asking for a jury out?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll step over. Mr. Mitchell?
Your Honor, we're gonna make an objection here as a 404B objection to the fact that there are 3 counts that are on today, and they all occur, well, 2 of them occur in 2014 to 2015, and 1 of them occurs after 2016. And the state's getting into acts that are not indicted that happened 6 years before that. And we're about to start into another act that happened at a location that's not part of the alleged indictment. These are all, I assume, prior bad acts that are, I assume she's going to continue doing this, and I don't know which direction, how many of these we're going to go through that are not involved in the actual allegations.
Gentlemen, you've heard the objection as to the fact that some of this evidence is involving things when she was substantially younger that's not part of the indicted offenses. You have a response?
Judge, this is part, when it was first indicted, it sounded like these were grooming allegations, earlier behavior, and the indictment was based on the CAC interview. It is impossible to separate. There were acts that occurred before the indicted charge. That's what we've gone into. And it's impossible to start with the first charge here. At some point, the state has to elect, but in a child abuse case, it is very, the state rarely charges every single incident that happened. In explaining what happened to you, what happened to her, why she told or didn't tell, it's important to understand what led up to the charged offenses.
But in doing so, you're introducing evidence of other prior sexual acts which are not part of the indicted charge, and that's the very nature of it for other bad acts and so forth. I understand your theory, and the fact is that you have indicted. It's not required that the state specifically identify the exact same day of the sexual abuse that occurs in a child. And that's why the state is allowed to introduce evidence and have an indictment that charges between May 1st, 2014 and May 30th, 2015. And you've alleged 2 different rape of a child, count 1 and count 2 of that. But to go prior to that and start talking about a rape that would have occurred, much preceding that, I think is in fact evidence of prior bad acts that are not directly connected. Unless you have some authority that would allow you to do that, I am of the opinion that the defense's objection is correct, and that you would be limited to having her testify about events that occurred within the time frame of your indictment.
May I have a moment, Judge?
You may.
I'm having trouble with. So again, the one of the primary reasons that I wanted to show this hearing was to describe the complexities of what it means to actually take one of these type of cases to trial. very easily something can go wrong that would allow for maybe a mistrial. And we'll see it come up as we go on other scenarios. I mean, in this case, the state does seem to be clearly wrong, bringing up testimony that is not in the indictment. So she's now going to go take some time to recoup. But what I'll do is just fast forward to when she comes back. And again, I'll just jump in every once in a while. But the purpose is, if you watch my primary channel, the Louisiana Parole Board hearings, I always get really riled up as to why so many of these predators get short sentences, commuted sentences, really slap on the wrist plea deals. So having this as an insight into how complex a trial can be was invaluable for me to at least understand the system and why they so often take these plea deals.
I would say that looking at 404B, I note that the wording of the statute is evidence of other wrongs or acts. Child abuse is a continuing offense. I realize that these are from before the dates listed in the indictment, but they should be admissible to explain the victim's disclosures and non-disclosures and the timing of them. And I apologize for not requesting a jury out to go into that evidence.
Mr. Mitchell, you were standing a moment ago. You have something you wish to.
Just, Your Honor, I was going to say that we would ask that the previous testimony of an event that occurred when she was 6 years old be struck from the record, and we're only asking for a jury instruction at this time. We're asking for them to be instructed not to consider those facts, and that the state's not allowed to get into
It's
that.
proper to testify that she can testify that, this was, when she reported this, and why these dates are important according to the indictment. And I don't think you can preface that by having her testify about all of the times prior to that date of that indictment. So I'm going to sustain the objection. I'll instruct the jury to disregard the testimony regarding events that occurred prior to the dates of the indictment, and then allow you to go into those dates with your testimony. Bring the jury back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As I told you, there are times when I have to make rulings on the admissibility of certain evidence. In this case, the defendant is charged in a 3-count indictment with offenses that occurred during specific periods of time. Those indictments that were read to you alleged periods of time between May 1st of 2014 and May 30th of 2015, and then May 7th of 2016 to May 30th of 2018. Those are the time periods for which you must consider the evidence to determine whether or not the defendant has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt to have committed a crime during those time periods. So I have sustained the defense's objection to testimony that would have occurred prior to those time periods, and I'm instructing you to disregard that testimony. We will now proceed with further questions.
Alexis, we're gonna zero in on a specific time frame, okay?
Okay.
From May 1st of 2014 to May 30th, 2015.
Okay.
So I want you to set that time frame. Where were you living at that time?
I think we were living at the trailer.
Can you think back to what grade you would have been in?
Can you tell me the dates again?
May of 2014 to May of 2015. So the school year of 2014, 2015.
Probably in 7th or 8th grade. Off the top of my head, I think so.
We're making you do math on the stand.
I'm
You're
sorry.
gonna go on to nerve. I'm gonna show you a photograph of you from 2015, okay?
Okay.
Do you recognize that photograph?
I do.
What is it?
It was the day of my choir.
What choir were you in?
It was just a school choir.
So what school were you in at that point?
I was still in elementary school. I'm sorry.
And are you able to pinpoint a time frame based on that photo of how old you would have been in 2015? Or at least what school you were in 2015?
And I was in elementary school, so I had to be in like 5th grade.
Judge, I would move that in as State's Exhibit 1.
Mark it as Exhibit 1. You wish to have that passed to the jury?
I would like to publish it on the screens if that's an option.
It is an option. And,
Although, how do we do that with YouTube?
well, you just don't show it on YouTube.
Is passing it going to be easier than putting it on the screen?
Ms. McKinney, I think, can help you with that.
So that is what you would have looked like in 2015.
Yes, ma'am.
Now during that time frame, did the defendant have sexual contact with you?
Yes.
There are 2 different indictments during that time frame. How many times during that time frame did he have sexual contact with you?
Over 10 times.
During that time frame, what's the first incident that you can remember, a specific incident where the defendant had sex with you?
I was 8 or 9 years old. It was,
Well, we've got to go to this time frame between 2000. So when you were in elementary school,
yes,
2014, 2015, so you would have been older than 8.
yes,
You would probably been 9.
9, I think, yeah, 9 and a couple months. He woke me up from my bed and told me to be quiet and not to speak. He took me to his bedroom where my mom and the defendant slept. And he held me down and told me not to scream. And then continued to have sex with me.
Where were your hands during
Your Honor,
this?
I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to object again.
I'm sorry.
We'll have to object again. I'm gonna have to ask for a jury out one more time.
Ladies and gentlemen, step across. Mitchell, if you'll state your objection.
Your Honor, we'll have to bring up our 404B objection. She just testified that she was 9 years old. Her birth date is May 7th, 2003. At 9 years old, that puts her between the year of 2012 and 2013. She turns 11 on May 7th of 2014. And the indictment, the first two charges are from 14 to 15. So we're once again talking about something outside of the window in the indictment.
And Judge, that was probably my mistake. I offered that number instead of letting her do her own math. I can clarify.
Well, she's testifying about events that occurred during that you're saying occurred during the time frame of the indictment.
Yes, Judge.
The jury has to determine the credibility of her testimony and whether or not those events did in fact occur. I will instruct the jury again that the timeframes that they're talking about will be those timeframes that are set within the frame of that, and that they will have to make a determination as to whether or not this evidence fits that timeframe. And they cannot consider the evidence of any crime that occurred outside of that timeframe. In my opinion, that's an issue for the jury to determine. It is not a basis for me to sustain the objection, but rather to give a limiting instruction that the jury must remember that the time frame we're talking about. They can do the calculations. The defense can cross-examine her about her birth date, and bring that out if that's what you wish to. But I think the attempt is being made to fit the alleged activity within the time frame of the indictment. And if it doesn't fit, then we must acquit. Bring the jury back. Ladies and gentlemen, as I explained to you when we asked you to step out, I'm the one who's asking you to step out to try to make sure that what I do does not affect your verdict and your decision in this case. In this case, I've told you the time frame from the indictment, and when you go back to deliberate, you're going to be given a copy of this indictment to take back with you. There are dates that are set forth that the alleged abuse has occurred within these time frames. So the state is attempting to introduce evidence that is alleging, according to them, that abuse occurred during that time frame. It will be your determination as to whether or not they have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that, in fact, there was an abuse that fits within that time frame. You cannot consider abuse that occurs outside of that time frame if it is alleged to have occurred. So does everyone understand that? Then I'm going to allow the state to continue with that limiting instruction that it must conform to the 2014 to 2015, and then again 2016 2018. All right,
All right, so it looks like I did some bad math.
It's okay, we both did.
So when you were 9, that was not 2014 to 2015. But that year that you were at Centennial, that you were in Centennial Singers, that choir program, the incident that you're talking about,
Yes,
where he came and got you, took you into his room,
yes,
did that occur in the 2014, 2015 school year?
yes.
Was it during the day or the night?
During the day.
Where were you when he came to get you?
I was laying in my bed.
Why were you in bed?
It was the morning time.
Okay, I understand.
Yes.
So it was daytime, but it was morning, daytime.
Yes,
You had
sorry.
not gotten up yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was anyone else in the house when that happened?
My mother and Danny and Coda, I think so.
Do you remember seeing them when he took you from your room?
No.
Do you know, you remember that your mother was home? Do you remember where she was?
I do not. I know she was either in the shower or going to get, groceries or,
And you remember that, why? I mean, why, you can remember that she was there,
yes.
but you can't remember exactly where. Why is that?
I don't know. I don't remember.
How many times do you think something like this happened during that 2014, 2015 school year?
Over 15 times.
When it would happen, would your mother always be home?
No.
Do each of those 10 events stand out clearly in your mind, or do they kind of bleed together, or something else?
Some bleed together.
Let's go back to this specific one, not in general, but this specific one that you remember.
Yes.
When he took you from your room, do you remember if Danny was there?
I do not remember.
When he took you from your room, what do you mean by that? Did he pick you up, take you by your hand, something else?
No, he grabbed my arm and he shook me to wake me up. He put his hand over my mouth and told me to be quiet and not to speak.
And what happened then?
He grabbed me by my arm and took me to the room, led me to the room.
Did you see any other person from your bedroom to his bedroom?
No.
Tell me about the setup of his bedroom in that house or trailer.
The bed was in the middle of the room. There was 2 windows behind the bed. The bed had these black bars and then dark wood. There was a white dresser, a small one, and then a clock. The dresser had paint taken off of it. It was old. There was also a bigger dresser on next to it, not too far from it, that was white also and had paint taken off of it. There was clothes on the floor. You would walk into the bathroom and there would be a big tub and then there'd be 2 sinks and then the toilet.
Was it a tub shower or just a tub there?
Just a tub.
So if your mom was in the shower, where was she in the house?
There's a shower by my room. So she was by my room.
When he took you into the room, was the bed made?
No.
Did the defendant and your mom have kind of a his side, her side of the bed?
Yes. He had closer to the door and then she had closer to the bathroom
Where did he put you on the bed?
on his side.
Did he physically pick you up? How did you get onto the bed?
He told me to lay down.
Were you wearing pajamas or something else?
I was wearing pajamas and then he took them off.
What type of pajamas did you usually sleep in at that age?
I slept in either a full, footy pajama onesie, or I slept in long pants and a tank top.
Do you remember what you were wearing that day?
I do not.
Do you remember what he was wearing?
I'm thinking he was wearing just cargo, not cargo shorts, but I can't explain them, I'm sorry. But they were dark gray, I think.
Was it an undergarment or something you would wear out in public?
You can wear it out in public. Yes. It's like basketball shorts.
What, if anything, happened to his clothes?
They came off.
How did they come off?
He took them off.
Is he telling you anything while this is happening, while he's taking your clothes off and his clothes off?
Telling me to be quiet, that he's just teaching me, and that it'll be over if I just stop crying.
Were you crying?
Yes. I was telling him to stop.
What did he do once both of you were unclothed?
He got on top and held my arms down
How did he hold your arms down?
like that, like this.
So you're crossing your arms, but you're saying he held
Yes.
the upper part of your arms
Yes.
to your body.
Yes.
What did he do after that?
He stuck his penis inside my vagina and then held his hand over my mouth so I'd stop screaming.
Did anything come out of his penis?
Yes. Sperm.
Did it come out inside your body or somewhere else?
On my stomach.
Did after he was done having sex with you, after he was done raping you, did he say anything? Did he do anything? What happened?
He just told me not to tell my mom. He said he wouldn't care. He was going to leave her anyway.
What did you do after he was done raping you?
I asked him why.
Did he ever tell you why?
Just that he was teaching me.
You said he ejaculated onto your stomach.
Yes.
What did you do at that point? Did you clean yourself off? Please explain what happened after that.
I cleaned myself off with a towel and then went to the bathroom and cleaned the blood off of my legs and went to go pee.
Did you have pain anywhere during or after the sexual penetration?
Yes.
Can you explain that?
In my vagina.
Did you ever have blood in your underwear?
Yes.
Was that before the time you started your period or after?
Before.
Did your mom ever ask about it?
No. She just thought I started my period and I just didn't tell her.
Is there a time in that time period when something like this happened, but that Danielle Kathy was present
During it or?
at the house?
Yes.
Can you explain that? Like where did the two of you sleep?
Me and Danielle Kathy, we slept in the same bed. So she slept in the bed with me.
And was there a time that Rocky came to get you from the bed during this time frame, 2014 to 2015, that she was there in the bed with you?
Yes.
Did she wake up?
No, I tried to wake her up.
Can you explain that?
I would tell her the night before, I would ask her to wake up if I pinched her, or I would tell her to switch spots with me and cover her head in the morning so that maybe he would wake her up and I wouldn't have to go in there.
So on the morning that he came to get you, that she was in the bed, what did you do?
I pinched her and I would like kick her.
And did she wake up?
No,
I already asked you that. So even with you kicking and pinching, you did not see her wake up.
I did not see her wake up, no.
On that day, you're pinching her
Mhm.
and he's taking you from the bed. How is he taking you from the bed?
He's doing the same thing, covering my mouth, whispering, telling me to be quiet and come to the bed with him and it'll be over with. And he got me by the arm again and took me to the bedroom.
What happened?
He would again rape me, put his penis inside of my vagina.
This time that we're talking about that Danielle was present and you were pinching her and trying to wake her up, where was Dakota?
He was either in his bedroom or on the couch.
So he did not sleep in the same room with the two of you.
No.
Do you remember seeing him on the way to the bedroom?
That time, no.
When you got in the bedroom, and is this, yeah, this is still in the trailer, so it's still the same bedroom that you described.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened? What
Can you
happened?
explain?
What happened when you got, I know you may say it's similar, but the jury has to understand each time what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you went in, when he brought you into the bedroom, what happened?
He would again hold me down because I would scream and tell him no, put his hand over my mouth, and then forcefully put his penis in my vagina after telling him no.
When did you move to Rocky Drive?
I'm not too sure. I'm sorry.
Okay. Will you tell me how old you were the last time it happened?
15.
So your birth date, when were you born?
May 7th, 2003.
So that would have been in 2018. Tell me about the last time that he had sex with you.
He told me that it had to be special because it was our last time. And that I needed to get in the bed and just listen to it be over with and then it'd be done. I still cried and I tried to hit him. And then he just put my hand behind my back and then forcefully raped me and put his penis inside my vagina.
Now, the last two times that you've talked about, were you on the top or the bottom?
The bottom.
This last time that he raped you, you said that he said it had to be special.
Yes.
Was it different in some way?
I was on the top
And why did he say it was going to be the last time?
because I told him that I was going to tell my mom and that he said it was just the last time that I didn't need to tell her.
Were you afraid of the defendant?
Yes,
Why were you afraid of the defendant?
because he would heavily drink and hit me and yell at me.
During the time that your mother and the defendant were married, did she drink a lot?
Yes,
And when we say a lot, that can mean different things to different people. What was, when your mom and the defendant started drinking, what was it like?
they would have parties, so they would have tons of people over, mostly parents. So I would be stuck with watching their kids, cleaning up the broken bottles, holding my mother's hair back. He also yelled at me one time because it was a school night and I wanted to go to bed. he turned the music up really loud and I tried to turn it down and he smacked me. There's also a time where I didn't want to hold my mom's hair back because I wanted to go to bed so I could go to school in the morning without being tired. And he screamed at me and told me I didn't love my mother.
I'm going to show you something else. Alexis, what is that?
It's a Father's Day card.
You say it's a Father's Day card. It's not just a blank Father's Day card. Who wrote that card?
Me,
Who was it given to?
the defendant.
What time frame do you think you wrote that card?
No, I was older than probably 9 or 10.
Can you read it?
I'm lucky you're my dad. Happy Father's Day. I love you, Daddy. You're an amazing father. Thanks. Thanks for being my dad when I didn't have one. And making my mom as happy as she is. Love, Lexi.
Why'd you write that, Lexi?
My mom made all of us write one. Every Father's Day and every Mother's Day.
Judge, I would move that in as Exhibit 2.
Exhibit 2.
Did you tell your mom more than once what was happening?
I told her that once, and then the day after Miss Pulley.
At the time that you spoke to the therapist about what happened, were the defendant and your mom together?
Yes.
Now, they weren't married anymore, right?
No, they were divorced.
Where would he sleep during that time?
He would either jump from his friend's house or sleep in my mom's room.
And how long had they been separated before they got back together?
Probably about a couple months, I think.
During the time between, because you talked about the last time it happened,
Yes.
and he told you he was going to break up with your mom.
Yes.
Did he break up with your mom after that?
No.
Did they break up off and on? How was their relationship?
It was a little rocky, but they stayed together.
But they divorced?
Yes, they did, because I told her that I wanted her to, that I didn't feel safe around him.
Was there ever any times that he was raping you that someone almost came in?
Danny, he wasn't raping me then, but I had her hide in a closet And then when he tried something, I tried to get her to come out, but she said she never saw anything.
The person that we've talked about, the defendant, is he in the courtroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you point to him? Judge, I will ask that the record would reflect that she has identified the defendant.
Right, the record will reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
And Judge, I have no further questions at this point in time.
Vince, have questions?
Alexis, let's start off with a timeline.
Okay.
If that's all right with you. I'm gonna get a big board. We're gonna write the dates up on there so it's a little bit easier to keep track of this for both yourself and the jury.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Well, there's that. Let's go ahead and take an afternoon recess. Ladies and gentlemen, I would remind you to follow my instructions regarding discussing this case. We'll be in recess for about 10 minutes.
All rise. This court is in recess.
All right. So we're gonna jump ahead. But man, it's so intense. And again, this is part of why how we can see how difficult it is to get into the stand and to be questioned. And now it's the cross-examination is going to come in. So, let's see where he goes with this. Of course, it's also just heartbreaking and befuddling to hear that her mother would get back together. I just don't understand how that's possible. And I wonder if somehow she could be held responsible. But I'll jump ahead. We'll continue with the cross-examination.
Okay. And just because, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
I'm gonna go ahead and just put these down here. So for 5, 7. You're 1 here. Effectively, I'm gonna write these down so we can get an idea of timeframes on this. I'm gonna go down every year here. So 2004, 2005. So we're talking about a time frame between the age of 11 and 12, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so we're building up all the way to 2011 here. What age were you when you met Rocky?
I was 5 or 6 years old.
All right, so you believe you're 5 or 6. So then that's sometime in what year?
2008 and 2009.
Y'all can get the idea, right? I'm not gonna take the time to write all this out. So this helps you though, right? This helps you
Yes.
understand a little bit better about where you're at on age and times of things.
Yes.
Okay, so, and Judge, I'll just turn this to you because it's not very sophisticated, but we're, all right. So let's talk about how this works out. Now, thinking about that, when you met him, was he married to your mother?
No, they were just dating.
Did they live together?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know when they got married?
I do not.
Do you remember how old you were when they got married?
I do not. I'm sorry. I remember around what age I might have been.
So what is your around, what age?
Maybe around 8, I think.
So you think it was probably somewhere in the 2011 range?
I think so.
And you think you met him when you're 5 or 6?
Yes.
And when do you think you moved to Rocky Drive?
I know it was after they got married, I think. I'm sorry.
You don't have to be sorry. We're just trying to get an idea of when things occurred.
I have no idea. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So I'm gonna think about this. You also had a picture that was now Exhibit 2 of a Father's Day card. Do you know when you would have done that?
I'm sorry.
Do you think you would have done that before these alleged abuses happened or after?
After.
After, okay. And do you recall posting that on Facebook?
I don't remember it, but I guess I did it because it was off of my Facebook.
Do you recall posting another image with it?
I don't.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm sorry. If you could look at those 2 images. So if those were off of your Facebook, is it fair to say that you posted both that image and the Father's Day card at the same time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you, and Your Honor, we would move those to be the next exhibit.
Right.
Both of
These
those
are
items.
2, there's a photograph and then an expanded photograph showing the date.
Yes, sir.
Be marked as Exhibit 3, is that correct?
So when you look, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to ask her to look at it again. Looking at that, when did you post it on Facebook?
When did I?
Yes, ma'am.
It says June 19th, 2016.
Okay, so we're off the chart here. We're gonna have to move around. We'll say 2015, you were 12, 2016, you were 13, and then 2017, you were 14. So that was what day in 2016?
June 19th.
So June 19th. So you'd been 13 for a month or so.
Yes.
Okay. If you could hand that to the Madam Clerk, she has to mark it as an exhibit. Now, and Your Honor, once that's been marked, we can just pass that around to the jurors so they can see the image. Double check. Now,
We had not demonstrated the other photograph, but we'll go ahead and pass this one to the jury.
I think the other one was published through video, and they had.
It was published by large screen camera, you're right, thank you.
Sorry,
Exhibit 2 was not passed, but she read the text.
okay.
Father's Day card was not.
Yes, exhibit 2 was not published, and I believe she read the text.
Well, then I would ask the court if they could pass both of them around at the same time. Those are,
Go ahead and pass all three of them to the jury. Photographs.
okay, so you've got events that you're saying happened sometime when you were 11 or 12, another one that you're saying happened when you were 15.
Yes,
So that would have been sometime in 2018, summer, winter. Could have been sometime in 2019.
2015, sorry, 2018.
Well, it's from May 7th of 2018 till May 7th of 2019, you'd have been 15 years old. So there's,
Yes.
But you believe it happened in 2018,
Yes,
and you believe, you don't know whether or not it was in the summer or the winter.
I do not.
fall, anything like that. Would that have been before your mother and Mr. Kathy were divorced?
yes,
So it was before they were divorced. Would it have been before they separated? Because I assume they separated for a period before they got divorced.
they did. They separated for a couple, like a week or two. But they did that back and forth until they divorced.
Okay. And do you know when they were divorced?
I don't remember the date.
But you believe that the events that would have been the last time occurred before they were separated or divorced?
Yes,
Okay. I'm gonna flip this over because we're gonna make a probably really bad drawing. Okay,
Mhm.
sorry, I've got terrible handwriting. I'll follow up with bad drawing. Let's talk about what the trailer looked
okay,
like, all right? And I'm gonna cheat because I know what it looks like. But I'm gonna have to have you tell me where things are.
Okay.
So we'll start off. It's a single wide trailer, correct?
yes,
The driveway, where you parked? Over here?
no.
No? Where
On
we
the
cars
other
parked?
side.
On this side?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're gonna say this is where the cars would come in. So the road's that way?
Yes, it's a long driveway.
Long driveway comes in from the road that way.
Yes.
What door would you enter?
The front,
Is it down here?
yes. You can enter the front or the back.
Like, there's one right in there and then there's one right here, right?
Yes, sir.
So is it open like this, I assume? And then I think it's like that.
Yes. I
Okay.
think so.
But are there steps on this side?
Yes, there's steps on both
There's steps
sides.
on both sides, but where did you normally come in?
I normally came in the front.
This way.
Yes.
So we'll just put a set of stairs right here. Now, what do you see when you first come in the house?
The living room,
And what's on this side of the living room?
one of the couches.
So there's a couch like right here. And then there's like a half wall,
There's a couch further to the back.
another one that is it facing this right here?
Yes,
And then, but there's a kitchen over here, right?
yes, sir.
Kind of angles in here. And then what's back here?
Their room,
Your mom's room.
yes,
Is there a bathroom up here?
yes.
So this is where the tub would be?
No,
No,
the tub would be on the other side and that is where the toilet would be. And then the sinks would be not
So
right there.
there's a bathroom right up here, right? There's
Yes.
the bathroom that had the tub in it is up
Yes,
here. And then their bedroom, the bed's down here.
yes,
So something like that. And then I've made this too big or I'm off scale because over here are the two bedrooms and a bathroom.
yes,
So there's a bathroom in the middle and there's closets in this area too, but whose room is this?
Dakota's.
So that's Dakota's room. And then this is,
That is a bathroom and my bedroom goes all the way, yeah.
So then this is Alexis and Danielle, which are on the same bed right in here.
Yes,
And there's a hallway, but, like I said, terrible scale, terrible drawing. The idea though is that your story is that he would come all the way across the house. Where does Dakota normally sleep?
either on the couch or in his room. He usually didn't like to sleep in his room though.
He typically slept on the couch.
Yeah,
This one,
no,
this one,
yes, the larger
the
one.
larger one, okay. And there's a TV like right in here.
Yes,
Right there. So you're saying that Mr. Kathy would come across the house, your mom would be in this bathroom
it depends if she was showering, yes.
and then take you past Dakota's room and the living room where he might be, all the way over to here.
Yes,
And he's got his hand over your mouth?
yes. Not the whole way there, but yes.
And are you screaming while he's taking you across the building?
No, I'm crying.
You're crying.
Yes,
Did you testify that you would scream and cry?
I would scream in the room, yes.
And the events they're violent, right? They're
Yes,
He's holding you down.
yes,
You're hitting him.
yes,
You're causing, I assume, some kind of commotion.
yes.
And there's 3 other people in the house. Were there other people in the house?
No,
There was never anyone else when the stuff was going on, just your family?
yes,
Animals?
yes.
I can have just a minute, Your Honor. That's all, Your Honor.
One moment, Judge.
It always. There we go.
I have nothing further, Judge.
Nothing further?
Yes, Judge.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. You want to leave her under the rule or allow her to be in the courtroom?
She can be released from the rule, Judge.
You may stay in the courtroom if you'd like. Thank you. They may call your next witness.
State calls Danielle, Kathy. Yes, ma'am.
It's my understanding they're calling her mother now to the stand. Assuming she still has the same name, which you would.
Are you Danielle Kathy?
Yes.
Is that DanielleCathey?
Danielle, would you pull that microphone base towards you a little bit so that we're having to record everything that's being said here, so we need to make sure we pick it up on the mic.
Danielle, how old are you?
I'm 16.
Who is Rocky Kathy to you?
My biological father.
And who is Alexis Harrison?
She was my stepsister.
So you, were there times that you would go over to the house when Alexis's mom and your biological dad were still married?
Yes.
Did you live there all the time?
No, only on weekends.
When you stayed there, would you share a room with Alexis?
Yes.
Would you share a bed with Alexis?
Yes.
Do you ever remember any incidents where you woke up with her pinching you?
Yes.
Can you explain that just a little bit?
Well, the bed was against the wall and I woke up and I was facing the wall. And she was pinching, I think it was my arm, it might have been my hand. And I felt the bed shaking and I didn't really know what to do. And then it felt like she was getting pulled out of the bed. And then the door shut and opened, or opened and shut. And then I turned around and no one was there.
Nothing further, Judge.
Those are any questions?
Who all was at the house when that happened?
My stepsister Alexis, my biological father Rocky, my brother Dakota, and his friend Andrew.
Andrew who?
Holden, I think.
Okay. And was her mother there?
No.
Just a second. How old were you?
I think I was maybe a little older than 10.
Okay. And do you know what the age difference is between you and Alexis?
3 years, I think.
And do you recall ever being asked to hide in the closet?
No.
Anything redirect?
Just to clarify, and for the sake of my memory, I just asked you and you answered and I have forgotten. How old are you now?
16.
So you think that would have been about 6 years ago? Thank you, nothing further.
Anything follow up?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. You may sit down and you are released from your
State will call Helen Potter.
We'll adjust the camera just to show the podium.
Are you Helen Potter?
Yes,
Is that HelenPotter?
yes.
And you are not super soft-spoken, but make sure you're speaking into that microphone because we have to make a recording.
Okay.
How are you related to Alexis Harrison?
She's my niece.
Are you the sister of her mother?
Yes.
Now, I'm about to ask you a series of questions that are going to be worded kind of weirdly, okay? Because we can't talk about what people told you. But was there a point in time that you became aware of a sexual abuse allegation that Rocky had done something to Alexis?
Yes.
Without saying what people told you, what did you do when that allegation came forward?
Well, I confronted him. Well, my husband did. I confronted my husband and he confronted Rocky.
And did Rocky, now, this specifically, did Rocky deny anything had happened? What did he say when he was confronted?
Your Honor, lack of personal knowledge.
You're gonna have to lay a foundation of personal knowledge for her to be able to testify about that. Sustain the objection.
Were you present when he confronted Rocky?
Yes.
How did Rocky respond to the confrontation?
He didn't really say a whole, he just cried.
Did you, at that point, believe Alexis?
Yes.
Did you tell anybody what the allegation was?
Clear you out on this. I'm sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, step across the hallway, please.
We're getting dangerously close to some very bad.
Is that microphone on?
Your Honor, I'm sorry, I'm objecting and I don't know the proper objection outside of. This is not information that was ever given to us, and I understand that it's not required to be given to us until after she testifies. But surrounding all of this are a lot of things that are going to cause a mistrial. And I think the state's aware of that. I don't think that response was what the state had thought they were going to get. I don't know what to object to other than to say, I'm scared to move forward because I don't want to have a mistrial at this point.
Judge, maybe I can ask some clarifying questions.
Well, what we're gonna do is while the jury's out, we're gonna let you ask your questions and let her answer them. And then we'll determine whether or not there needs to be a recess for him to take any preparatory action before we commence with cross-examination tomorrow.
All right, Ms. Potter, so when Alexis made this disclosure, and I'm gonna skip forward, at the end of
Let me
everything,
interrupt you again, I'm sorry. What specifically are you referring to that you were claiming surprise that this is the first time you've heard of it?
Two things. One, her previous statements were that he denied it. And two, she had said she didn't believe her at the time. But our investigator has spoken to
Technically,
her.
it doesn't
I know that
matter.
those aren't,
A lay witness is not entitled to testify whether they believe or don't believe someone. There was no objection made to her testimony at that point, but had you objected to it at that point, I would have sustained the objection. The witness we can't bring people in to testify who say, well, I believe when she said something to me, I believed it, unless it somehow is relevant to the issue. Is there a relevance to that?
Judge, that's why I would like to ask a series of clarifying questions, because I anticipated the answer to that question to be no, otherwise I would not have asked it.
I would object to it.
What did you ask?
I asked at the time of the allegation, did she believe her?
And you expected her to say no.
And she said yes, and I
She said
think I
yes.
can clarify that.
All right, I'm going to allow you to do that. So we'll see where we are since we're out of the jury's hearing.
Ms. Potter, did you call the police that day to tell them about the allegations?
No.
Did you call DCS to tell them about the allegations?
No,
Why not?
because I felt like she was jealous of the relationship
You're
between.
going to have to speak up a little bit, ma'am.
I'm sorry, because I felt like she was jealous between the relationship of her and her stepfather. That she was, like when she was a child, she would tell little fibs, and we didn't know, I asked her, when she first said it, yes. I said, what are we gonna do, but she kind of acted, I don't know. It was just, she was little, and I wanted to make sure that everything was true, because I didn't want there to be, because it's his life, her mama's life, her life, so.
Judge, I think a better question of did you believe her would have been, why didn't you do anything?
Well,
And
the
if-
jury's already heard her say she believed her.
And I can clarify that to say, your gut reaction was to believe the child, but you didn't end up doing anything. I don't know, Judge.
Mr. Mitchell, it was your objection that led us to this point, so.
Initially, I wasn't objecting because all information I've been given was that she was going to be a negative witness on the state's behalf. That she was going to say she didn't believe what was going on, that she didn't think that it happened. So I wasn't prepared to object to someone. The state was going to call them and say, no, I don't believe this child when she was saying this. But it's pure bolstering at this point if you put her on and says yes. I think that there are more reasons that she's and you get very philosophical about how people change their mind as time goes on when people have been charged with things. But I
It's
don't
not the
think-
first time that a witness has testified differently than what the state was expecting. I've had some experience in that at trial myself, so all I can tell you is that this is not information that would have been discoverable because the state did not anticipate this answer. So for that reason, it's not a violation of the discovery rule because the state was expecting her to state what you expected her to state. And the fact that she then came back and said something different, I will allow both sides to clarify that with both direct questions by the state and cross-examination by you. But it is not a basis for, in my opinion, an objection to her testimony simply because she's testifying differently than what both sides expected her to. That goes to her credibility more than anything. So with that, anything else before we bring the jury back? I will allow the state to follow up with those limited questions that you're proposing that point out the fact that whether she believed her or not, she didn't do anything. And then we'll bring the jury in. Bring the jury in.
Judge, the only other follow-up that I plan on asking is, did she make any other disclosures to you after that day?
All right.
I can leave that off.
All right, gentlemen, you may continue.
Ms. Potter, after the disclosure that your niece made, did you call the police?
No,
Did you call DCS to report it?
no.
Why didn't you do those things?
I wanted to make sure that everything that was told was true. I didn't want to just go off on, I wanted to make sure everything was right.
Nothing further, Judge.
Cross-examination.
Isn't it true that during the time frame that you're talking about, that there were some jealousy issues going on with Alexis in respect to Mr. Kathy and her mother that you observed?
Yeah, because she'd always had her mom to herself.
And isn't it true that during the time frame that this was going on, that you had some reason to have an opinion that she was not necessarily always a truthful person?
Yeah, because she was very young and
Nothing further.
Redirect.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you got cut off on the end of that. Did you want to finish that answer?
Objection, Your Honor.
I don't know what the gestures.
I
mean,
don't
Mr.
know,
Mitchell.
I don't know how to do this without a court reporter, but I would like to approach or.
Oh, let's just all stay where you are, ladies and gentlemen. Let me see counsel around here. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't want you to be the only ones who got to get up and walk around a little bit during the middle of the trial. So as I said, we've handled it that way, and we've handled it so that you don't have to leave. I think the state has now arrested their redirect. Is that correct? All right. And we finished then with this witness.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am, you can step down. You are released from your subpoena. You can go about your business. All right.
If I could have one moment, Judge.
All right.
Judge, the state will call Misty Kathy.
Step right up here, please, ma'am.
Are you Misty Kathy?
Yes.
If you will, please pull that microphone down towards you and make sure that you speak directly into it. Thank you.
That's Mistycathey.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were married to the defendant for a period of time.
Yes.
What is the date range of when you were married to the defendant, roughly?
2010 to 2019.
When you first began dating the defendant, where did you live?
My mother's,
What is that address?
1816 Rock Church Road.
And when you left your mother's, where did you live?
On Rocky Drive.
Do you know how long you lived there?
I think 8 or 9 years.
Do you know the date range, maybe? Rocky Drive, what city is that in?
Dixon.
And that's also in Dixon County?
Yes, ma'am.
After you left Rocky Drive, where did you move?
My current address.
And you don't have to, you don't have to put your address on, but is that in Dixon as well?
Yes, ma'am.
So Rocky Drive, was that a trailer?
Yes.
And the Nottingham is a house?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the defendant live with you at all three of those addresses?
No.
Where did he live with you?
On Rock Church and Rocky Drive.
And after you divorced, what was your relationship like?
On and off.
At the time that law enforcement came to speak to your daughter, what was your relationship with the defendant? Were you on or off?
Kind of on.
Was he coming around the house?
Yes.
How often?
Like once a week.
Do you remember your daughter telling you about sexual abuse allegations with Rocky?
No, I don't.
Were you drinking heavily during the time that you and Rocky were together?
Off and on, yes.
Where did you work during that time?
NHC.
Was your daughter ever alone with the defendant?
Yes.
How often?
Some afternoons and on weekends when she was home.
Do you, nothing further, Judge.
Defense have cross-examination.
Miss Kathy, how long did you date Rocky before you got married?
A year and a half, 2 years.
So how old would Alexis have been when she met Rocky?
7, maybe 8.
Do you remember
I
what
need you to pull that microphone. We're having a recording,
Sorry.
everything that's said, so I really need you to speak into the microphone.
So do you remember what date you were married?
I don't remember the exact date, just 2010.
Okay, so and how old did you say your daughter was when you were married?
Oh, I don't know how old she was when we got married. When we met, she was like 7 or 8.
Okay, if your daughter was born in 2003, you were married in 2010, she would have been 7 when you got married.
I guess.
And you believe that you were,
I was just guessing.
do you know when you and Rocky separated? Just a second. Now, approach the witness, Your Honor.
Right.
I want you to look over this, see if it helps you remember. Let's start page 2. All right, so looking over that, do you remember what exact date you married Rocky?
Yes, November 26, 2010.
And do you recall what date that you separated from Rocky?
It says March 2018.
So what day were you divorced?
August 2019.
I just want to, don't do a lot of dates there. August 2019, when the divorce is finalized, but the separation is in March of 18.
Yes, sir.
Y'all living together after March of 18?
No.
And then we'll leave that, we'll leave those dates there. Miss Kathy, did you ever have any reason to believe that something was going on with your daughter and Rocky?
No, sir.
And she never disclosed to you that you recall?
Not that I can recall.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Helen Potter is your sister, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that your daughter never disclosed to you that you can remember.
Not that I can remember.
Do you remember an incident where you were around Helen and that she brought it to your attention and you talked to Alexis then?
Helen told me about it, but I don't remember it.
Okay, nothing further, Judge.
There you are.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. State may call your next witness.
Judge, the next witness will be fairly lengthy.
Is this the Detective Johnson?
Yes, Judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, we were talking about timing and so forth, and I don't like to go late at night. It's not going to be able to be finished anyway, because I think we all lose our sense of focus and concentration. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop here for the day, because the next witness is going to be much more lengthy than some of the others, and that would take us late into the evening. So we're going to ask you to come back tomorrow morning, and if you'll come back and go to the jury assembly room like you were in this morning at 8:45, so that we can hopefully start court promptly at 9. Then we will take this matter up at that point in time and hopefully conclude it tomorrow. And I would remind you of my instructions. You can leave them here or take them with you. I don't care, but just remember those instructions about don't let anybody talk to you about this. Don't try to go on YouTube and look at anything regarding this case. Don't try to do any investigation of it your own self, and then don't discuss this when you're back here on these breaks that I send you out of the room. It's important that you not talk about this case, talk about anything else other than that. Talk about how irritating it is to have to be sent across the hallway every few minutes. That's my fault. But if you will avoid talking about the facts of this case, then we'll have a much better result. So we'll stand at recess until tomorrow morning. Actually, we're going to adjourn until 9 o'clock.
All rise. This court is now adjourned.
Now, we're going to jump ahead. Okay, sorry, I had a problem with my mic. We're going to jump ahead to the next day, and you might be surprised at the results, and then I'll comment on it. Let's go.
All right, I've been advised that the parties have reached an agreement to resolve this case and other cases that are pending.
Your Honor, this case is going to be resolved today by Mr. Cathy is going to plead to count 3 rape. That'll be a 100% charge on release eligibility, but you get 15% reduction credits. And he'll be put on the sex offender registry and community supervision for life. He can have no contact with Ms. Harris. It's 12 years to serve. Part of that deal is that he has other charges pending, and all of those are going to be nollied in settlement. I passed up paperwork that shows all of those, including his jail credits.
What I've been handed is the document indicating that in docket number 20 CR 181, he will be pleading guilty to count 3 rape and receive a sentence of 12 years to serve, a lifetime sex offender registry. Of course, that is I believe is this 12 years to serve at 100%.
Yes, sir.
All right, 12 years to serve at 100%. He would then be on the lifetime sex offender registry, community supervision for life. He's to have no contact with the victim, Alexis Harrison. And then I'm advised that the victim has a victim impact statement she wishes to offer. Is that correct? All right. Now let's go ahead. Mr. Cathy, raise your right hand. Let's place you under oath.
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. Move that microphone over. State your full name for the record, Mr. Cathy.
Rocky R. Lee Cathy.
Mr. Cathy, you're here today because you're charged in this indictment with 2 counts of aggravated rape, actually rape of a child, and then 1 count of rape. It's been indicated that you're going to enter a plea to the count 3 and that the other counts would be dismissed along with other indictments that you have in other cases. As a part of this agreement, do you understand what you're charged with? Of course, we are in the 2nd day of a trial. So have you been advised and been able to see what your charges are and talk that over with your lawyer's office, and you and Mr. Mitchell and his assistants discuss the range of punishment you're facing as well as possible offenses you might have to this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, it's indicated that you want to enter a plea of guilty. Do you understand you have the right to plead not guilty and continue on with this trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that if you plead not guilty, you would have the right to have a lawyer, to have one appointed for you, as I've done with the public defender?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand that if you went to trial and continue on with this trial, you will be presumed to be innocent until such time, if ever, the state proves your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt to the satisfaction of all 12 jurors. And their verdict will have to be unanimous before you can be convicted of any crime.
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand that if you went to trial, if you continue on with this trial, your lawyers will continue to have the right to confront and cross-examine every witness the state calls, and you can bring in your own witnesses by the use of a subpoena.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you also understand that you are presumed to be innocent and you will not have to testify or prove anything at this trial, and there will be no inference of guilt that will arise, and the jury will be instructed not to infer anything from the fact that you do not testify?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand that if we continue on with the trial and you are found guilty of anything, you would have the right to appeal the conviction and the sentence imposed to the Court of Criminal Appeals and have a lawyer appointed to help you with that appeal?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand that by pleading guilty, you are waiving your right to a trial and to an appeal. All I'm going to do is to approve what your lawyer has worked out.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you understand this is being entered into with the consent of the victim in the case to resolve this matter once and for all.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand this is going to result in a conviction? That felony conviction will be on your record in the future to make more severe punishment you'll receive if you are ever again convicted of a crime.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand everything that I've explained to you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you wish to plead guilty to count 3 of the indictment, rape, and waive your right to a trial and to an appeal?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand if you plead guilty, the court of the state may ask you questions about this offense, and if you answer those questions under oath on the record and in the presence of your lawyer, your answers could later be used against you in a prosecution for perjury if it turns out you were lying under oath?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is your decision to plead guilty today voluntary?
Yes, Your Honor.
Anybody forcing you to do this?
No, Your Honor.
You understand I can't accept your plea unless I'm satisfied you are guilty and there are facts to support it.
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you in fact guilty of the charge of rape?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you've heard the testimony of Ms. Alexis yesterday about that when she was 15, I think that was count 3, when she was 15 years old, that you forcibly raped her. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
That is true.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Are you satisfied with your attorney services?
Yes, Your
You
Honor.
feel like Mr. Mitchell has done a good job of representing you competently?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Mitchell, do you know of any reason you should not enter this plea?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then at this point, we're going to, before I pronounce sentence, allow the victim to give her victim impact sentence. So have Mr. Kathy take a seat at the table and bring her to the witness stand. Ms. Alexis, my understanding is that you would like to have this shown on camera. Is that correct? All right, just have a seat in the witness stand. And I'll be glad to have you read your statement.
It all started so young, when I was supposed to be having fun, but my childhood wasn't fun. It was filled with you screaming at me while I beg you to let me sleep, beg you to let me stop, beg you to stop. I still feel your hands touching me everywhere. I still feel your hands covering my mouth as I try to scream. I wipe away the blood on my inner thighs as you tell me to stop crying, that you're the only one teaching me for my future husband. You were supposed to be my father, the one I'm supposed to trust, the one I'm supposed to go about my relationship support. But you made me hate myself more and more as I held the razor in my hand, begging myself to just do it. It will be quick. All your pain will go away and no one would care. That's what I thought when no one believed me or heard me. Here I am today testifying as I have people who believe me. I still remember when you told me no one would believe me and that I would never escape. You sit here today looking at you, forgiving you, but not for you, for myself. Am I allowed to add more?
Yes.
I know that you're not the greatest person, but I wish you would just tell me that you did it. Because I'm looking at you today and you haven't said it. I know he can't. But I hope you know I live through this every single day. I have nightmares about this. I wake up screaming in my sleep. My husband still hold me because of you. But I forgive you. Again, not for you, but for myself. I'm done, Judge.
Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you.
Alexis, I wanted you to know that this also was, that I asked him if it was true what you testified to, and he admitted it. So he has admitted it. You may not have heard that part. And it is of record, and it will be on video so that you will always have that as a record that you were right about what you said, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from the state?
No, Judge.
There are a few cases that bother this court more than children who have been abused, and especially in a case such as this. Alexis has shown incredible bravery and courage in coming forward and testifying yesterday about these events, especially when people who should have been her protectors and people who supported her the most didn't always believe what she had to say. But there are circumstances that arise sometimes that create that situation. In any event, she is a brave young woman to have come forward. There are a few things that are more despicable than someone who is in a position of authority and position of trust, such as a step parent, which is a difficult job, who betray that trust by committing unspeakable acts upon someone that's unable to protect themselves. I understand why this case is being settled, and I understand why both sides, I believe this is a fair settlement. It is a situation that allows Alexis to now get on with her life because there will be no appeal arising from this. And as a result of that, it terminates her, hopefully her horror of having to deal with this situation. In any event, based upon Mr. Cathy's plea of guilty to count 3 of that indictment, counts 1 and 2 are dismissed. I find him guilty, order that he be sentenced to 12 years in the Tennessee Department of Corrections to serve 100% of that time. He will get credit for time served as set forth on the document. He is to be on the lifetime sex offender registry, and he will have community supervision for life. He is to have no contact with the victim, Alexis Harris. All the other cases and docket numbers are dismissed as a part of this agreement. That is the judgment of the court. Thank you. We need to bring the jury up from the jury room, please. We can tell them what's happening.
Your Honor, do you want to keep Mr. Cathy out here?
He does not have to be in here. He can begin serving us in. Is here in the courtroom, and for even if at the beginning she wasn't believed, and at 100% of his sentence to be served, he won't get early release. Case there were 2 very serious charges that were brought against the defendant, and if he were convicted, he would have a very serious sentence. And the other flip side of that is that if the jury was not convinced of the guilt of the defendants, then the state's position was that obviously it would be unfair to the victim in the case. You heard testimony yesterday from the victim, Alexis, who testified about what took place, and there were questions raised about that. Today, Mr. Cathy has pled guilty to a charge of rape and has been sentenced by me to serve a lengthy prison sentence, and at 100% of his sentence to be served. He won't get early release or any such thing as that. He will be on the lifetime sex offender registry, and he will have to register forever and follow the community supervision for the rest of his life. It may seem like a small thing to have him plead to 1 out of the 3, but it also allows the victim, Alexis, to have him state in open court that he was guilty of what she said he did. And he affirmed that on the record. It is now a permanent record for her peace of mind to know that he has affirmed that she was telling the truth, even if at the beginning she wasn't believed. She also gave us a very powerful victim impact statement. I'm sorry that I could not allow you to hear that because of the simple fact that she giving that, I had to preserve the possibility that the plea might fall through and we would continue on with the trial. That's the reason that you were not able to hear what she had to say. But all of this is now a record that's on YouTube. If you're interested in going back and seeing what he had to say since you were involved in this trial, you can look at it anytime you want to, and you can see her victim impact statement. Alexis is here in the courtroom, and for the benefit of other children who might be in the same or similar situation, she asked that she be shown on camera reading her victim impact statement. It takes a lot of courage to do that. So I commend her for that and for the hopeful benefit that she's given to other people. I just wanted to let you know that if you were not here serving in your role, none of this would have been resolved. It would have just been continued on. She has finality. It was her agreement that allowed this case to be settled. The state would not have settled it otherwise, but it allows her to avoid an appeal and having this case continue on for years to come. So with that, I'm just simply advising you that your term as jurors here has been concluded as a result of this plea, and we will not be continuing on with any further of the trial. I thank you for your time, for the patience you've shown, and the many times I've had to ask you to step across the hallway, and for your patience in waiting in the mornings when we've had the things that we've had to get done. Are any of them going to have to come back for the next? Do we have anything else? This will conclude your jury service, and you are now exempt for 2 years, so you can go about your business. At least yesterday it was rainy and cold and damp. Today it's sunshine, so maybe that's a good omen for you. Anyway, you are discharged with my thanks, and if you would like to step across and collect any personal items you have, then you're free to go. Thank you.
Judge, if any of them have questions.
Yes, and if any of you would like to talk to the lawyers involved, they often like to talk to you to find out what your thinking was, and helps them in their future trials, and they will have many, many future trials to go. So if you would like to talk with them, or if you're willing to let them talk with you, they may want to come speak with you about this case. So if you would just step across to the hallway and collect your things, and we'll let them see if there's anybody who wants to talk to you. That will conclude this case.
That will conclude this case. First, I want to apologize about my not really, or my improficient editing abilities or lack thereof. I don't have editing software, and so the jumping around, it's really quite a manual process. Two is, I really do respect and like this judge. The idea that he talked it out with the jury and made a point, magnified and emphasized the survivor's statement at the end, making sure to tell the survivor, you know, it's on the record, he admitted to it. But again, the one of the reasons that I want to showcase this hearing, and thank you, Richard, for bringing it to my attention, was because we see over and over and over again on my other YouTube channel that covers the Louisiana Parole Board, of people who harm children. Their sentences, they're given plea deals. 5-year commuted sentence, couple years, 6 years, people who have done the worst type of things. And we always say, how is this possible? And then the answer is, well, trial can be a messy thing. We don't want to go to trial. But we have seen the survivors get up at the parole hearings just a few years later and give their testimony to keep the person locked up. And in this situation, I think we could see partially see why. In this short trial, there were things that happened that just created room for an appeal, and there will always be room for appeal. But the question is, was there credible reasons that an appeal would have been justified? Let's look at the fact that her mother got up on the stand and said that she has no memory of being told about this happening. What cowardice. She's the opposite of her daughter. Her daughter is to really what it seems to have done this alone on her back, and then to get up there and say, I want to be on camera so that I can help others, and to make that statement and even say, I forgive you, but for me, not for you. First, her aunt comes on and they ask her, did you believe her? And she said yes on the stand. And then that created this kind of havoc because both the defense and the prosecution expected her to stick to her initial story, which was, no, I did not believe her. But she said on the stand that she did. And then when they said, well, then why didn't you call the police or anyone? Who was like, oh, well, we just wanted to make sure. And she's just like, no respect for her to even come on the stand and possibly throw the entire case because you don't, now when you're facing it, you want to make yourself look better. You want to make people and the jury and whoever's watching think that you are a better person. No, but you weren't. And then the mom, I don't know if I should give her credit for staying honest on the stand or what, but the bottom line is she insists on the stand, I think, for her own selfish reasons that no one told her. So in essence, she is calling her daughter, a liar. The day of her trial, the day where you would finally think that you would and you know what, maybe I can't bring it up the day of her trial because you could say the aunt at that time said, right? So I can't get it both ways if you get where I'm going with it, right? If she had insisted the whole time that she wasn't known and wasn't told, then she couldn't testify to that at court. And I guess they had that expectation. But that doesn't change that. It doesn't make any sense. They get separated and divorced because of this, according to the daughter. And then I'm having microphone. I think I need to buy a new microphone. It's going in and out. Maybe a new cable. But this is frustrating. This is what I do so many hours a day. And then she gets back together with him. Just the whole thing. It's and I guess this is also part of why it's so difficult to take these things to trial. Oftentimes, it's not a healthy family. You don't have people supporting you. In this case, it really seems to me like no one believed her. And even once they believed her, according to her, her mother did get divorced, but then brought him back into their life. Brought the monster, brought the cockroach, brought the filth back into their life. And then no matter what it is, whatever the reason is, the bottom line is she still shows up at court. Her daughters trial against the cockroach, against the predator, and says, which is counter to what her daughter's been stating all along, that no one told her. And then when they even brought up, well, don't you remember, was it when don't you remember when Helen told you? Was that what it was? Yeah, her sister. And she said, I remember when Helen spoke to me, but I don't remember what she said. It's like, that doesn't even make sense. What a waste. And it just adds more emphasis on how truly special our survivor is. She gets up on the stand and she says it how it is. And then now let's think about this guy, Rocky. What a lowlife. He marries into this family. He's got a daughter. He's got a son. They put them in this house. He's like, what a lowlife. He literally, inside their house, that's how it can happen. Inside, what was it, a trailer? He pulls her out of the room, pulls her out of the bed that she's sharing with his own daughter, covers her mouth. And he would do it over and over and over again for years. And then when it all is about to be found out, he takes it to trial. He makes his own daughter get on the stand. He has his own daughter get on the stand for her daughter to say, I do remember getting pinched. Because she would pinch her when her biological father, her stepdad, would grab her out of the room. What kind of man says, you know what, I'm going to go and take this to trial? And I don't know, is it his own money? It looked like he had 3 attorneys or more, or is that the state that provides him with all of those resources? Was he facing more time if he had just initially took a plea? Or did he really want to take it to this point to make his victim get on the stand? To see would she actually do it? To see if he could have more control to the very end. I gotta tell you, his ex-wife, the mother of his victim, she got up and said, I never knew about it. I bet you he was betting on that. But you have to think that the trial was going in a way where the prosecution was willing to give a 12-year deal. And frankly, I don't think 12 years is enough. But this is something also that we see. We would see someone who would do this and say, how is it that they only got 12 years? Well, this can be how. Really, it was pretty quick. It was a one-day trial. They brought in 3 witnesses. They were going to bring in the detective. And before the detective could come, both sides thought, you know what, let's just do a plea deal. 12 years. That's what they agreed on. Now he's got lifetime supervision. He's got lifetime registry. He can't get out early, which is nice. 100% of the sentence. That's, I guess, a Tennessee thing. But he'll get out. And he's, one of the worst kind of predators because he's a manipulator. He will find another way to get back into someone's home. They're very, they know who to prey on. I don't think this is a by a chance type of thing. I don't think this is, it happened. I do believe that he found a woman that he knew was vulnerable, that he knew he can do whatever he wanted, and he did it so he can get to her kids. And really, that woman is a coward. Misty. She still shares his last name. You would have thought that you would do anything you can to change your name back, no matter how complex, to share your last name with that monster. But we're able to see multiple sides of the spectrums. True survivors, heroes, brave people, and other cowards, cockroaches, waste of life, manipulators. Two sides, just like the arms of justice, so to speak, right? And hopefully this can give us some insight again into why it is that certain cases go to plea deals. And I think it's because trials are messy, trials are dirty, they're unpredictable. But for 12 years, we don't need to worry about this cockroach. And his next 12 years are going to be the toughest of his life. And with that, I'll let you go. If you want to see more parole hearings, there's over 600 on my main channel, Mandu. And I'll continue to try to put out about once or twice a month, something like this. If there's anything you think I should share, please email it to me. And don't forget to do the algorithm thing. It helps a lot.